Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Caroline Kennedy fronts U.S. Senate, offering glimpse of issues she will deal with as U.S. Ambassador to Australia. Caroline Kennedy has fronted the Senate as she wends her way through the confirmation process that all United States ambassadors have to navigate before getting on a plane. The former U.S. Ambassador to Japan, and daughter of former U.S. President John F. Kennedy, appears set to become a high-profile appointment to the Ambassador to Australia role. Most observers predict she will be waived relatively quickly through the Senate confirmation process, allowing her to fly to Canberra within the next few months. But the hearings have given foreign policy watchers and officials their first chance to see her speak at length about what her top priorities would be as ambassador and give her views on the mounting list of geopolitical challenges both the US and Australia are grappling with. Here is what she said on some of the big issues, ranging from China and AUKUS, to climate change and brewing strategic competition in the Pacific. China. Unsurprisingly, U.S. senators at the hearing were keen to press Ms. Kennedy on her attitude to China, and to the fraught ties between Canberra and Beijing. Senator Chris Murphy, a Democrat, pointed to China's trade strikes on Australia, as well as criticism state media has heaped on the Australian government, including a Global Times piece describing Australia as chewing gum stuck on the sole of China's shoes. Former Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney struck a similar tone, asking Ms. Kennedy if she agreed China was acting in a malevolent and predatory way that presents a real threat to our interests here and around the world. Ms. Kennedy used much more measured language in her answers. But she praised Australia's response to China's trade punishments, saying the US could learn a lot from their response. They've stood firm, and I think they've managed to come together with a bipartisan foreign policy, and I think a greater and deeper partnership with us in the security and diplomatic areas, as well as across the board, will serve their country and our country well, she said. In fact, Ms. Kennedy came back to that theme of bipartisanship and unity more than once in the hearing, saying later that the Australian people had come together in understanding the challenges posed by China. She gestured towards the relatively modest impact of China's trade strikes, saying Australia was fortunate that it had rich endowments of resources. Beijing has continued to buy Australian iron ore at sky-high prices because it still needs it, and that most of the goods blocked had been able to find markets elsewhere. She also vowed to back Canberra in its standoff with China, saying pushing back on China's economic coercion is something that United States is going to have to support our allies on. But she did not offer any specific details about what form that pushback would take, or lay out what concrete steps the Biden administration might be willing to take to deter China. AUKUS, the signature defense technology agreement between the United States, the United Kingdom and Australia, will undoubtedly eat up a huge amount of Ms. Kennedy's time after she lands in Canberra. Australia's push to develop nuclear-powered submarines will strain every sinew the federal bureaucracy has as the federal government develops the regulatory framework, infrastructure, workforce and technical expertise needed to build, run and maintain them. Read more. Ms. Kennedy did not dwell on the agreement at length during the hearing, but she hailed AUKUS as a landmark pact of real consequence. She was also keen to stress that AUKUS was much more than just a nuclear submarines agreement. She highlighted the dizzying array of working groups that had sprung up to help all three countries coordinate on a wide range of sophisticated military technologies. I think that there is a lot of deterrence that it will deliver well before the submarines are in operation, she told the hearing. Climate change is a point of tension between the federal government and the Biden administration, which has made it clear it wants Australia to take more ambitious steps to cut carbon emissions by the end of this decade. Veteran Democratic Senator Bob Menendez used his time on the floor to highlight the catastrophic impact of climate-fueled disasters in Australia, including the Black Summer bushfires and the floods which have ravaged New South Wales and Queensland this year. He told Ms. Kennedy there were great lessons from these disasters for the US, and asked her if she would get Australia to think about the climate responsibilities they have in both their own interests as well as the global interest. Ms. Kennedy's response was quite cautious. She highlighted that US firefighters traveled to Australia to help fight fires in 2019 and agreed it was important to move as